But going through Verne's camp, on occasion, Billy Robinson would come down. And most of the time when he'd come down to stretch him.
Right.
And maybe at that time it was just to fulfill a little bit of an ego that he had.
Right.
Come down and the Englishman would stretch you a little bit. Kaz Vaziri, the Iron Sheik, was the guy that was there every day, 5 hours a day. He was a major influence of our camp, and he would stretch. He was a great Iranian amateur wrestler.
Right.
I think in 1974 he was a Pan American Games gold medalist. So, bodyguard to the Shah of Iran. I mean, the guy was a tough guy. No, there were the Vernes. A lot of the Vernes main event guys didn't come down and share too much with us. Most of our camp was just in the beginning, like the first 3 or 4 weeks, was just a lot of exercise. And I think there was about 16 guys that first came out. And it wasn't about 2 weeks later, there was 4 of us left.
Right. Were you able to pick up the business pretty quick, or?
Well, Kaz tells me that I was his best pupil. So out of the 4 guys, do you know who the other 3 were?
No.
You've heard Jen Nelson,
No.
Scott Irwin.
Yes.
Okay. I think he passed away with some kind of brain cancer,
Yeah.
retina cancer, something like that. Okay. And Buck Zumhoff.
Yep.
And, it was me. That was the 4 of us. Jan, I don't think he wrestled that long afterwards. Just maybe 2 or 3 years. I heard he died at a Rolling Stones concert in the men's bathroom with his needle in his arm. And then, of course, we know Scott died of cancer. I don't know what Buck Zumhoff's doing. Do you know?
No. What are some of the first territories that you worked for?
Well, Verne.
Right.
Worked for Verne after I went through. The camp was about 3 months, about 11 to 12 weeks. After that, worked with the AWA for probably about 8 weeks, 2 months. And then I went shipped down to Florida. And I was kind of happy to hear that. He came and told me, he says, well, you've been here for a couple of months wrestling in the AWA. I'm going to send you down to Florida and you're going to wrestle down there for Eddie Grant. Well, I grew up down in Florida and I was almost happy to go back home. But I didn't wrestle there very long, maybe just 2 or 3 months.
Right.
What was his name? Jim Barnett, working with Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I think at that time that was like mid-70s or something like that. I think at that time he might have owned a piece of Florida.
Right.
I'm not sure though. And he came down to TVs a lot, and I was just a green young talent, and he wanted me to come to Atlanta and work for Atlanta, Georgia Championship Wrestling. I think I'd only been in Florida 1 week. And I kind of declined. Tried to do it as nice as I could. Here, I'm really green, right? 2 months into the business. I said, well, look, I grew up here in Florida. I've just gotten back. I've been away. I think at this time I've been away close to a year. Went to Minnesota on the starting, which I thought was the starting date of the wrestling camp, and it got postponed, weeks later into months and this and that. I think it was finally 6 months later that the camp finally started. But I was up there for a year. Gotten back, got tired of Minnesota snow. Happy to get back to Florida. And I just said, look, I've only been home for a week. And so he would come to TV almost every single week and ask me, would you come wrestle for me in Georgia Championship?
Everybody does
the invitation.
Yeah. Oh, my boy. Right?
Everybody.
So I think after 2 months, Eddie came to me and he said, look, Barnett really wants you to go to Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I think it would be a good move for you. It might give you a little bit of a break too, maybe a couple main event spots. So after just 2 months in Florida, went to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I was there for almost probably about a year.
All right.
And after that, at the latter part of 1976, went to Carolinas.
Who are some of the guys you worked with in Georgia before you went up to the Carolinas?
Slater, Dick Slater.
Right.
He was main event guy. I got a story about with the booker at that time. Have you heard of Tom Ernesto?
Yes.
Yeah, I was there maybe just for a couple of months, and Ernesto said, "Look, we're gonna give you a push, and we're gonna give you work with Dick Slater." At that time, I think Slater was working a program with Wrestling 2, Johnny Walker. He said, "What we're gonna do is that we're gonna have you work this week with Slater on TV. We're gonna have Slater go over this week. We're going to bring you back next week and work with Slater. You're going to go over. And then we're going to have the tiebreaker match. And out of that, we're going to work an angle." Well, that sounds fine, So that week I worked with Slater. I put him over. Second week of TV, we all show up. I think we did it on Saturday mornings. Like you had to be there like 8:30. That was rough. After Friday night. And also, I wasn't even on booked to be on TV or anything. And I said, what are we doing? So we're going to do that next week. Well, next week, same old story. Never happened. I ended up putting Slater over.
Right.
I didn't mind. I'm green in the business. Just been in the business for maybe at that time about 6 months or so, 8 months. God, who am I to say? No, I'm not going to put Dick Slater over. He's a main event guy. Didn't have to swerve me for me to put him over.
Right.
Tell me the story. So. Dean Iguchi, Dean Ho, was a real big influence of mine while I was in Georgia for a year. We lived in the same apartment complex, and he was just around the corner from me. Would have me over at his place every single day to eat. Him and I traveled every single day to and from the matches. And at that time, Georgia was the type of territory in which you'd work Monday through Saturday and have Sunday off. Never worked on Sunday. Never worked. So every Sunday I was over at his place. He'd have a barbecue going on. He was a big influence. Good worker. Not a great worker, but a good worker. And we would talk, and he would teach me ring psychology and why would you do this in a match and why you do that. Actually helped develop my style when I got into doing some of that karate stuff in the ring, because that's what he used.
Right.
And he said, "No, I don't have a problem with passing it along to you." So I would say that first year there probably wasn't anybody else while I was in Atlanta. During that first year, hang out with nobody else. It was just probably mostly Dean with his wife, and I think they had 1 or 2 kids. I was just hanging out with him every single day. I was by myself, worked out together, and just rode. He never got in the ring to show bumps or everything like that. Basically, we just
Psychology.
yeah, just classroom type work,
Right.
Talking this and that. But it really helped me.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.